Hello everybody and welcome into the Asphalt Outlaws Racing Truck Series live from the home of stock car racing, Charlotte Motor Speedway, and a good one in store for you here tonight. Thank you all so much for tuning in. You're watching Austin Green on Ghoster Racing Network. Drivers have gotten qualifying over with a little bit of a delay as I was late, so I apologize to all the drivers and fans out there, but nonetheless, here we go. Taking the pole tonight from Opower, it's Eric Hegdahl with a 29.9. Joe Yakes rolls off on the outside pole in second. Clinton Woodby back in third. Colton Hardy to his outside in fourth. Going to be Jay Stinson and Brody Benty making up row number 3. David Traylor back in 7th with Mark Beverly in 8th. Keith Prince 9th and Michael Newman rounding out your top 10. Nicholas Lawrence back in 11th. Jesse Calloway in 12th. Moving on back to row number 7. It's going to be Jesse Wise and Andrew Hansley with Bill Hales in 15th. Evan Schilling in 16th. Jonathan Herbert 17th. Haas Beverly in 18th. And Rick LePage rounding out the field. He will start tonight from the back in 19th. All right, looking at your race info, the breakdown here tonight, it is the Nirjuana 218 here in the Craftsman Truck Series. 145 laps is the scheduled distance, 95% fuel, 4 sets of tires, 1 fast repair, fixed setups as always, and there will be a stage break on lap 55. 3 green white checkers as well if they're needed. Weather outside 85 degrees, 27% humidity, partly cloudy skies, winds at 3 miles an hour, track temp nice and cool, 88 degrees. 1.5 miles the length of Charlotte Motor Speedway, and it is one of the fastest mile-and-a-halves on the whole season, or just in general of all the mile-and-a-halves. High banking in the corners, and you're going to see a lot of drafting down the straight. It's going to be a fun one here tonight. Looking forward to getting this one started. All right, lights off on the pace car. That means we are ready to go this time. After a brief, we won't call it a rain delay, we'll call it a broadcaster being late delay, but nonetheless, 10 minutes past original start time, we are ready to bring the engines to life for the first time here tonight as the pace car makes a left turn. Field in the hands of Eric Hegdahl as he works his way into the Geico restart zone. Green flag is in the air. We are racing at Charlotte. Good initial start as everybody is going to work their way into turn 1 for the first time here tonight. Not a lot of people single filing out just yet, but it is Joe Yakes trying to make something happen on the outside. Eric Hegdahl is now going to get a draft from Clinton Woodby, or rather going to pull a draft with Clinton Woodby in tow. The 98 Jay Stinson looking for some room to work with on the bottom, but the 87 of Yakes, and I'll be talking about this a lot tonight, but especially on these restarts, that outside, it's a place to go in these trucks. These things are very close to being wide open if you have clean air and you're running that top groove, especially with the cooler track temps. So watch for on the early restarts when you're trying to make those moves for people to look up top. But I think as the run goes on, things may start to shift back down to the bottom. You have to wait to find out. As the 69 of Jesse Wise is going to get just in front of the 13 of Mark Beverly. And in front of them, we've got a battle here between Keith Prince, David Traylor, and the 8 of Nicholas Lawrence. Of course, remember back to a couple weeks ago, Prince, and of course, the man who's not in the playoff, the rookie Nicholas Lawrence. They're not necessarily best friends as of right now, but I think that we've kind of gotten over it as Keith Prince had a great run, great comeback run, if you will, last week. And so now that he had got himself locked in here tonight to the round of 10, he's feeling a lot better about his chances, and probably maybe forgot about the incident between him and the 8 of Nicholas Lawrence. The 92 of Clinton Woodby still in that second position. He hasn't really fell off the back bumper of Hegdahl too much just yet. A little bit of separation, but until the tires really start to wear out, I don't think you're going to really see anything happen in terms of that 11 pulling away, at least not anytime soon. Now, I mentioned that we are on to the round of 10. It was the round of 16 the last 3 weeks, and 6 drivers have been eliminated, and what we have now, and these again are the drivers that are currently in the round of 8, and you'll also be able to denote that by that red, bright orange, or excuse me, I can't tell if it's bright orange or bright red banner that's on the top of the windshield and the spoilers for these Craftsman trucks. And so here you go, David Traylor took the lead going into the round of 10. Eric Hegdahl, Mark Beverly, Joe Yakes, Keith Prince, Clinton Woodby, Jay Stinson, Michael Newman, Jesse Calloway, and Colton Hardy sneaking in right at the end. But those are your 10 drivers. As I know I mixed it up a couple times saying the round of 8. Again, used to the normal formats that we see in a lot of leagues, but I like that it's the round of 10. It gives a couple more people a chance, and I think it's going to make the fight for the round of 5, which is another kind of interesting setup in of itself, exciting, but to have that one extra championship contender is certainly going to make for a great season finale at Kansas Motor Speedway. As here we go, Joe Yates, Clinton Woodby side by side. This is the battle for second. Woodby held on to it for a little while, but now Joe Yates is going to try to take it away. We saw Yates make the first pass of this race on the outside, and now that he's trying the inside here, can Woodby fight back and regain that spot, or is he going to lose it right here? Working off turn number 2. This is where the momentum on the outside should carry for Woodby, and it does. Is it enough to get clear, though? The 11 of Hegdahl drops low so that the 87 can get a draft, and that was keeping him side by side, but now Woodby's going to pull alongside the 11 here. Just 8 laps complete. Again, with the stage break being on lap 55 and based off the fuel window, of course, these guys probably not going to be able to make it quite all the way. As again, you know, figure it's going to be close, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't think they're going to be able to make it quite all the way, though. And so we'll see if they do have to pit, who makes that first stop and what kind of strategy comes into play. But there is the 92 of Clinton Woodby, who made that pass stick on Eric Hegdahl, and still further proving that at least within the first 10 laps so far, the outside has been the preferred and the dominant lane. And as we cross the stripe to take lap 10, next time around here, Woodby's looking to see if he can create himself some separation, and eventually that clean air does start to kind of take charge in a sense of the tires, once they wear out, if you're running in traffic, it's hard to make any runs, make any passes, but when you're out in front, eventually the power of that draft is going to fade as the tires do. So we'll see when that point in the race is, or rather when that point in the run is, but I'm looking at some of the playoff names, and Colton Hardy, who we said barely sneaked in, he's not wanting to barely sneak into that championship 5. As right now, he's sitting in 6, well inside the top 10, but he is down a couple from where he started. Biggest mover, though, in the top 10 is Jesse Wise, who is up 5 positions from where he started this race at. The 69 was in a must-win position last week. Could not quite get the job done, so unfortunately for the Jesse Wise fans, he did fail to advance to the round of 10. Well, if you're just tuning in, we certainly appreciate you being here as you're watching the Asphalt Outlaws Racing round of 10. First race here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And, you know, I'm looking on track here, and, you know, we talked about the cool track time. Part of that was the time that we are in sim right now. And as this race continues to go on, that sun's going to continue to set further and further behind the grandstands. And I wouldn't be shocked if the track temp cooled more, but it's actually warmed up a little bit here. As you see from the start of the race when it was 88 degrees, it looks like it's now up to 90. Not enough to really do much for handling, at least not in the positive direction, but again, we'll keep an eye on that as the race goes on to see if it drops off and see what that does to the speed and the lap times of everybody here tonight. Battle for 7, David Traylor, Nicholas Lawrence, and don't cut out the 4 here of Jesse Calloway, who's kind of stalking in the footprints right now. Waiting to see if either one of them is going to make a mistake, but Traylor will take that spot right away from the 8. And as those two get lined back up, they stay side by side just behind. Jesse Calloway in 10th, Keith Prince in 11th. Mark Beverly back in 12th, Michael Newman in 13th. Jonathan Herbert 14th, Haas Beverly in 15th. Evan Schilling back in 16th with Andrew Hansley in 17th. Rick LePage 18th, and Bill Hales again rounding out the field in 19th. And you know, you might be wondering, from the start of the season, field has shrunk pretty noticeably, but it's kind of a trend that you see, I would say, in most leagues and in general when it comes to playoff time. You know, as a driver, you figure as much practice as you got to put in here a week to be able to have a competitive shot. For a lot of guys, once their playoff run comes to an end, they decide to call it for the season and start gearing up for the next season. But then you've got the guys who are out here still looking to see if they can build some extra momentum going into next season. And those are the drivers that continue to stay for each and every race all the way through the championship, even if they are not in the playoffs. Battle for the lead is back on. Eric Hegdahl to the inside of Clinton Woodby. Woodby, I thought, would maybe pinch him down a little bit more, but feels like he doesn't need to. We're 15 laps in now, and you still wonder, is the top the most dominant lane? Hegdahl caught him, but catching a guy and passing him, two very different things. And He's taking the shorter way around. He just can't keep the momentum, though, on exit here. Woodby's just so much better through 3 and 4, it seems like. And a little bit better through 1 and 2. But that time, Hegdahl did a pretty good job. Actually was able to stay even down the front stretch. Go to the onboard view here for Jay Stinson as he is watching this out of his windshield right now. And just, again, waiting to see if either one makes a mistake. And he can kind of control what happens with these two here depending on who he decides to work with. And it looks like that time stuck a little bit more to the outside. Now he's going to drive it down to the bottom. It's a little bit tight off of 4. Watch just a little bit of a bump. Actually, it wasn't too imminent there in the cockpit of Jay Stinson, but there's a little bit, not really a bump, but kind of a point where off of turn number 4, the truck gets really, really loose, and you almost have to kind of be ready for it before it actually happens. And so now they will stay side by side. Down the back straightaway, Clinton Woodby on the outside, Eric Hegdahl on the inside. We'll see if the 98 here of Jay Stinson is able to maybe get enough of a run to try to go 3 wide, but right now nothing doing. And it is now 18 laps complete of 145. Throw the top 4 under a blanket for the moment. And it is Colton Hardy who is trying to catch this group. And now the 4 is going to get alongside Brody Benty here. I was trying to look further back on if we had anybody that had any actual issues yet. As we look at the track map, doesn't look like any major issues, but you do see Rick LePage and, well, actually Michael Newman has fallen a lap down already, so I'm not sure if that was maybe an incident that he was dealing with from another race and a penalty, or if it was potentially a technical issue that he had at the start of this race that he had to get sorted out. By the way, no driver cam here tonight, as again, we were unfortunately late to the party and was trying to get set up as quick as possible, so we didn't hold these guys up too long. But that's Haas Beverly that he's racing alongside with. Haas Beverly is on the lead lap, currently running in 13th, as Evan Schilling going to apply some pressure here. And I'll tell you what, I commentated a race on Monday over in a different league, and it was the Cup cars here at Charlotte. And I mean, we're seeing the same thing so far here tonight in the trucks, and that is, of all the tracks we've been to this season, Charlotte just seems to be one of those tracks that is constantly able to provide great side-by-side racing, especially through the early portions of the run. But even as you get into the middle and even the latter portions of a run, and so everybody taking advantage of that. But again, there will be that point where tire wear starts to really become a factor, and certain people are going to start to fade, especially if you are not the leader of a group. And you're starting to see that take toll here on Joe Yates and Clinton Woodby as they have faded back almost half a second from the back bumper of Jay Stinson, who still is relatively in the tire tracks of Eric Hegdahl. The 97 of Colton Hardy has caught those two, and you wonder if maybe Hardy was the first guy here tonight that has been working to save some tire and try to have something for the later portion of the run. Still probably about 5 to 6 laps away from being halfway through stage number 1. And again, 145 laps. It is one of the longer races of the season, so I think you got to kind of break it up into stints. You know, don't try to bite off more than you can chew, at least at a time here, especially if you know that maybe your truck's not handling the way you want it to. While you can't make any adjustments, depending on how you manage your tires, truck can handle a little bit better later in a run or a little bit better earlier in the run. So I think right now everybody's just focused on either getting to the first green flag stop or the end of stage 1, whichever comes first. And then after that, it's kind of 2 races split in half to a certain degree, as it'll be less than 100 laps to go, but we will still be expecting at least 1 green flag stop in that final stage. Eric Hegdahl, what a journey it's been to get to this point in the season. Remember, got 2 wins in the regular season and then had a couple teammates. Unfortunately, they are no longer running at this point, so Hegdahl out here by himself and still making the most of it, as he is showing that he's bringing speed each and every week. And it seems like as we continue to get deeper into the playoffs, he just continues to get better and better. So Joe Yates, who sits in 3rd, Colton Hardy back in 4th. David Traylor rounding out your top 5. He's another driver that's on the move forward, and he gave up a couple spots right off the start, but this was why, and you knew he would be one of the guys to do it. Tire management rather. He dropped back let those guys go up and use their stuff up. Was saving the whole time, and now he's starting to slowly work his way through the field. Question is going to be, how far forward can he get before we get to the end of stage 1 of that green flag stop, as he is just about 3/10 under 2 seconds back, and he still has 3 cars in between him and the leader, Eric Hegdahl, as we go back up front, and Hegdahl has extended his lead to about 4/10 of a second now. And believe it or not, that is the biggest gap we've seen tonight so far for the leader. Hegdahl has officially also now led the most laps of the race here tonight. So Stinson still holding on to second for now, but Joe Yakes, he is now starting to put the pressure on. We'll see if he's able to make a move to the inside, as he's going to jump low onto the entry of turn number 3. Going to slide up. Yes, he is going to get clear. For a minute, I was thinking that maybe the 98 would get a run back. He didn't do it. And so as Joe Yakes takes over second, he is now going to see if he can maybe go try to track down the 11 of Hegdahl. Looking at the blimp cam, things continue to get more and more spread out here at Charlotte. 27 laps now complete, and I don't really think we've got much of any side-by-side battles left on the track, at least for now. Again, gearing up to see if Joe Yakes or potentially David Traylor, who is, by the way, up to 4th now, can potentially find their way up to Eric Hegdahl and try to make a pass here before this thing's all said and done. Here we go. Pit stops. That'll confirm any suspicions. Green flag pit stops were required here in stage 1, in the sense of they just could not make it the entire way on fuel. So it looks like Stinson's going to be the first man to come in, followed by Colton Hardy and Clinton Woodby. And I would assume this is... Actually, I'm not sure here if they'll take 4 tires or 2 tires. It just depends on how much fuel you need. And so we'll go back here and see what they decide to do. See the right side of the truck's getting jacked up. See if the left side does the same. Yes, it does. So it looks like everybody that pit in this cycle is going to go ahead and take 4 tires, fill it up with gas, and that should be the only green flag pit stop needed here for the stage. Question is now, how are the leaders going to react to this? Is Eric Hegdahl, Joe Yakes, and David Traylor all still out on the racetrack? None of them have decided to pit yet. We'll see if any of them go down potentially this time. Sometimes as a driver, though, you may not know that certain guys are pitting unless you have, of course, the overlays for it. So, you know, if you're Eric Hegdahl here, I mean, I think you do stay out. You want to be the last guy to go in so that you can be on offense the whole time. But if you're Joe Yakes, David Traylor, with just 20, 25, 26 laps to go, I don't think it's a bad call to maybe think about trying a little bit of strategy. But so far, they continue to match the 11, as Joe Yakes has not fallen more than about 6 to 7 tenths of a second back behind Hegdahl here. No pit stop that time either, as the trucks go roaring off of turn number 4. A little bit of side-by-side action further back. And here's the 88, by the way, of Jonathan Herbert. The truck looks a little bit underpowered right now. Not sure if he's having an issue or if he maybe had a brief moment there in 3 and 4. It looks like he's gotten just about back up the race pace now. He's stuck on the high groove, at least for the moment, as Andrew Hansley sits back in 12th. Michael Newman in 14th. Jay Stinson in 15th. Colton Hardy in 16th. Clinton Woodby 17th. And then Brody Benty back in 18th, with Bill Hales in 19th. Eric Hegdahl still leading, but that gap has not changed since Joe Yakes moved to second. You can see it still hanging right between that 0.6, 0.7 range, as Yakes not really been able to track him down, but again, hasn't really lost much either. David Traylor, though, he's got up to 3rd, and he is just over a second behind the leader. That means he's only about half a second or so behind Joe Yakes. So Traylor still with, again, plenty of time here, 23 laps to go. We'll see if he's able to potentially get around the 87, and then I just don't know if he's going to have enough laps, though, to get up to the 11, as long as Hegdahl keeps it consistent, especially since we might be getting ready to see a pit stop from these 3. But who knows, maybe they start pushing it a little bit sooner here, and we'll see who's got the best short run speed here tonight. Hegdahl continues to stay out, and what this is doing here is, of course, right now it does have everybody that's already pit, and then Michael Newman as well, a lap down. But if we get a caution, of course, that helps everybody that's still staying out. But if we don't, and we get that green flag cycle all the way through, you're going to see Stinson, or rather one of the 3 or 4 guys that already pit, come out as your leader by a pretty good margin, as the tire difference here, the fall off, is pretty extreme. And so it'll be a matter of, can Hegdahl find a way to get back to Stinson, or whichever truck's leading. And actually he's gonna have to get around more than just the leader, because they'll probably all have jumped the 11 before we get to the stage, unless somehow these guys have got an ace up their sleeve here and they think they're going to go on fuel mileage and tire wear, which could be an option. But I want to take a moment here, brief moment, to look at the comparison of lap times. Eric Hegdahl, last couple laps, pretty consistent, 31.9s. And we go back and compare that to, say, Jay Stinson, who, by the way, he's already been on these tires for a little bit, but 31.6, 37 in clean air. So I think this lap might do it a little more justice. Let's see what it is right here. He crosses the stripe. Looks like it's going to go officially as that. There you go, 30.5. So that's pretty big fall off. A 30.5 to a 31.9. Almost a second and a half already. And I mean, 36 laps is a long run, but it's certainly not the furthest you can take this run. So almost second and a half a lap. That's going to make a big difference again when they come out here in terms of who's leading by how much and who wins the stage if the top three have to pit. And they're not the only ones that still have to pit, but it looks like a couple others further back are going to go ahead and make the choice to go in now, as it looks like, I believe Mark Beverly either had a slip up or decided to pit. Yep, looks like he has made his stop. So as Mark Beverly will bring it down to his box, he'll go in as well for 4 tires and fuel. Same thing that pretty much everybody's been taking so far here tonight. And the 13, well, I was just getting ready to say maybe he's not taking tires, but I just don't know. Looks like he did, though. You saw the right side get jacked up, and like the left side will get jacked up as well. So there you go, Mark Beverly, another driver in who's taking 4 tires and fuel. Meanwhile, back up front, there go all the fresh tires to get their lap back. And again, that is not for position, but that is to get a lap back. And it almost looks like they're working together here a little bit. Notice there, Jay Stinson, Colton Hardy, and Clinton Woodby, they're not making moves on each other here. They're running in a pretty tight line. And the draft is helping them pull each other down the straights, and then they're not really putting the pressure on each other in the corner, so they don't have to worry about making a mistake as easily. As Joe Yakes, oh, trouble for the 87 here, as he is going to loop it around and the entry to the pits. He'll do a little burnout here to get it fired back up and going in the right direction, but that's going to cost him any chance here at the stages. I think that was just an error coming in here. Did he get in too hot, or did he accidentally hit maybe a downshift that he didn't want to? So he turns down, shifting through the gears, and just locks up, gets some wheel hop, and round she goes. So that'll take Joe Yakes out of it. And now it is just a matter of when do Hegdahl, David Traylor, Keith Prince, Evan Schilling, Haas Beverly, and still a couple others make this pit stop. There's only going to be 15 laps to go in the stage when we cross the line this time. You got to figure these guys go in relatively soon. When they do, the big question is going to be, how do they come out? Again, if you're just tuning in, 40 laps, make it 41 as he crosses the line this time. Laps complete. And then Nirjuana 218 here for the Asphalt Outlaws Racing Truck Series. First race in the round of 10. Still a couple more to go before we get to the championship 5 of the season. Definitely in the final stretch now. And this is where, you know, as for some drivers that are currently in the round of 10, such as Colton Hardy, there's been some rough moments, some bad luck, but this is where you got to keep your head down and try to make it through, because you've worked so hard to get this close, and it's going to be a tight points battle, I think, all the way down to when that final 5, championship 5 rather, is decided. And I would not be surprised if you see somebody again sneak in by maybe just a point or two. Seems like it all, that's why these guys fight so hard for points, though, because it always seems like it comes down to that. As, by the way, David Traylor, not sure what happened to him here. Nope, looks like he's still in second, but he has faded a little bit. Remember, he had that gap earlier to just over a second between him and Eric Hegdahl, but that has since extended to almost 1.5 here with 43 laps complete. And so we continue to watch the guys on new tires, and I'm assuming that these front 3, or rather, not just the front 3, but anybody who hasn't pit yet is planning on staying out, because if not, I just don't see any way that there was any, I guess I should say, common sense in the strategy call there, because it would lose you the stage. And I mean, any bonus points or anything you can get is it's big in the playoffs. So for Eric Hegdahl to just be, you know, riding out there, if he feels like he's still going to have to pit, it wouldn't make sense. So I think that what it is he knows he's going to be good to go on fuel potentially, and that's why he's continuing to stay out. But again, it is going to be pretty close, so we'll have to see what happens. Saw a couple trucks still working their way out of the pits, as we now have 44, going to be 45 laps complete. And there you go, Evan Schilling, another truck who had stayed out for a while that has now bailed down to the pits to make his stop, and it gets you nervous, or gets me nervous at least up here in the booth. The more of these guys that I'm starting to see peel off now, and there it is. Your leader, Eric Hegdahl, makes his way down to the pits. Not sure if he was looking at a fuel window and realized it wasn't going to work, or if this was the strategy call, but I don't think this is going to end too well for the 11. It's going to be just 10 laps to go. Next time trailer crosses a line, and you have got guys that are going to be, I mean, decades ahead of him right here. As there's Jay Stinson. Look at this. So Jay Stinson is just now going by Eric Hegdahl, who is still sitting on the pits. Hegdahl is just now leaving. Looks like he didn't take much, so I'll give him credit for that. But, I mean, Stinson, he's gone. He's exiting off at turn 2 as Hegdahl is still trying to get up to speed on the apron. And now, there you go. Keith Prince and David Traylor, the final 2 trucks that were on the racetrack, are going to go ahead and make a pit stop. Keith Prince comes in second, then Traylor came in as the leader. So this will actually move Jay Stinson to the lead for the first time here tonight as he works to the inside of Nicholas Lawrence. Jay Stinson, he's no stranger to speed at 1.5 miles. Remember, he got the win during the regular season at Kentucky. And he'd like to add another one here, but potentially a win in the playoffs, which can mean all the more in terms of trying to advance to that final round here. 46 laps to play. You know what, speaking of that final round, I feel like it's probably a good idea to give a brief insight into what the coming races are before we get there. Next week, we're going to head to Bristol Motor Speedway, and then how about this? The final race in the round of 10, guess where? Talladega Super Speedway. What a track. Almost a wild card to what the regular season ended on. Talladega to decide who is going to make it to the Championship 5, which of course will be held at Kansas Motor Speedway. Looking forward to that race as well, as I think you'll see similar action to what we've seen so far here tonight at Charlotte. Which, by the way, we might make it through the entire stage 1 here, flag to flag, in terms of going green the whole way, as there's really not even been any close calls. I think, you know, maybe the only incident we've seen is a couple guys maybe getting loose. That's really it. Nobody's hit any walls that we know of. Nobody's spun out. It's just been a lot of clean racing so far. As speaking of racing, battle is on for second. Oh, never mind. That's the 88 of Herbert, who is not racing for position. As Colton Hardy does hold on to second, it's Clinton Woodby who's back in third. And then rounding out the top 5 is Brody Benty and Mark Beverly. Shout out to Brody Benty. Good looking paint scheme on that car here tonight, and then having a great run so far. So he's up a couple positions from where he started. But again, running in that top 5 with a chance to potentially improve that track position on the restart after the stage break. And that's why he battles so hard during these stages. Not only are there points on the line, but when it's tough to make passes in traffic, you got to get it on restarts. And the best way to make passes on restarts is to be as close to the front as possible, so you can get yourself to the lead. Jay Stinson crosses the line to take lap 50. So that officially puts us with 6 laps to go here in the stage. It's either 5 or 6. These guys are going to throw it either at the start of lap 55 or at the end of lap 55. I mean, the point is, if it stays green, and as long as Stinson doesn't make any sort of catastrophic mistake here, he's pretty much on cruise control for these next 6 laps. And just as I say that, we got to report that Bill Hales maybe had a close call there down the front stretch. Let's see if 53 maybe goes for a little bit of a detour here through the artificial turf. Yes, he does. That's just, I think he just got himself lulled to sleep a little bit. I think he was following the 2 trucks in front and just didn't realize it here is exactly what it looks like. You go straight, get no harm, no foul. Artificial turf, especially when you only get 2 tires on it like that, it's not going to spin you out, but it does give you an incident point. Nonetheless, though, Jay Stinson crosses the stripe. 52 laps now complete. And his nearest competitor is Colton Hardy, who sits just under a 1.5 seconds back. And then it's Clinton Woodby who sits back in third, rounding out the podium. And then Mark Beverly fourth. Brody Benty has fallen to fifth after he lost that position to the 13. There's Jesse Calloway back in sixth and about 7 seconds back from fifth. So everybody will get a chance to get grouped back up. And as it stands right now, you can see Rick LePage is set to get the lucky dog. So what he's really hoping right here is that Haas Beverly, who is not necessarily all that far out in front of Jay Stinson, is able to stay on the lead lap. Now Stinson going to be coming to either 2 or 3 to go as he crosses the line right here. I don't know if he's going to have enough time to catch Haas Beverly, but if he does, that would put Haas in the lucky dog position. As Rick LePage is not the only one, though. On that lap down list, you've got Nicholas Lawrence and then Andrew Hansley in the same boat as well. So a lot of drivers that could use a caution and a couple that certainly don't want to see one. 54 laps complete. Either this lap or next lap will officially have ended the stage. And so if it's this lap, how about it? Jay Stinson, start of the race. Overall good speed, but was trying to maybe help bang out some of the kinks, if you will. And he's gotten a couple of them figured out. And once he was able to take the lead off pitch strategy, he set sail and has not looked back. We'll see if this one ends it right here, if he has to go around one more time here. That is the lap 55 marker. It looks like he's going to have to go around one more time. So Jay Stinson with just a set of corners left to go. Nope, that will be indeed the stage as you see the caution now in the air. Again, that is a scheduled caution as there's no incidents in the field, but rather that is for the stage break to officially score Jay Stinson as your stage winner. All right, before we get ready for the not quite 100, but probably about 85 to 90 lap finale here at Charlotte, it's time to go take a quick break. Go get yourself a drink, get some water, and meet us back here. We'll get an interview with your stage winner, Jay Stinson. Stick with us at Charlotte. Welcome back to Charlotte Motor Speedway. Stage 1 complete. And I think we've got a brief word here, hopefully with your stage winner, Jay Stinson. Jay, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
Hey, Austin. How you doing, man? I got you.
Well, there you go. You get the job done. Last track you won at this season was at 1.5 miles, but overall good speed early. It looked like the strategy, though, was the defining moment. Kind of tell us what made you decide to go in when you did, and worked out pretty well. So is that kind of the game plan here for the final stage?
Yeah, I did some practice laps and just felt like at that point in time that was the best time to come in and kind of risk and see what everybody else does. It worked. We didn't have any cautions or anything like that, so that's the thing about coming down a little bit early. If we get a caution, it could screw you. But overall, man, it worked out pretty good, and we went 1, 2, 3 at White Knuckle, so that was perfect team execution. That was great.
Certainly was. Now, you just mentioned cautions, and to be honest, with the kind of feel this race has had so far, I don't know if we'll see one here tonight. And now that we set ourselves up for, a much longer run, almost twice the distance there, what we saw in stage 1, does that alter the strategy at all? Or do you just, again, kind of stick to the same game plan?
I got a few tricks up my sleeve. I don't want to let everybody know what it is at the moment, but, this is a very interesting race. You got a good number set of tires. You probably want to leave a set for the end in case of caution. So, you're going to run and try to conserve your tires the best you can. Try to run up front or somewhere near the front the whole race, stay out of some trouble. But it'll be interesting this next stage, see what everybody does.
Certainly will. We've been fun to watch through the first stage. Good luck the rest of the way, and we'll see if we're talking to you in Victory Lane.
I appreciate you, awesome. Thank you.
There you go, Jay Stinson, one of the White Knuckle Racing drivers, along with teammate Clinton Woodby and Colton Hardy. You heard they executed on strategy. Well, that would certainly explain why they all pitted together. But now they set themselves up for almost a new task here, as again, this stage is going to be, I say this stage, it's the final stage, but going from lap 60 to lap 145, a lot longer of a run. Interesting to see who prevails here. All right, Stinson on the outside. Chose that lane, feels like he'll get the better acceleration. And maybe wanted to help his teammates out a little bit as well. Here we go, back into the restart zone. Green flag in the air, the final stage at Charlotte is underway. Good restart for Jay Stinson, but not quite good enough to get clear of his teammate Clinton Woodby. Now he's going through the middle of 1 and 2, as you see further back. A lot of trucks dropping the line to try to start tire saving right out of the gate here. And again, you get 4 tire sets from what we know of, and I'll kind of break this down again, but you figure, so you get 4 tire sets, and then you've also got one that's already on the truck, as I take that back. Tonight they've got 5 total tire sets, so you've got one already on the truck, so that leaves 4 in the pits. You take one there on that first stop, you take one there at the stage, that leaves you 2 sets left. And we saw guys that were able to make it to at least 40 laps. So this could be pretty close to making it a one-stopper. If so, then, and if you can make it on a one-stopper, I should say, then that would save yourself a set of tires for if we get a late caution. However, if you're going to do a 2-stop strategy and you're taking 4 tires on both, then that may not be the best setup to do, because if we get a late caution, you're going to be in trouble if you don't have any tires. Mark Beverly in the 13 looked like was maybe looking for a lane right there between Jonathan Herbert and Brody Benty. Tried to shoot the middle, but there's just really nothing doing right there. So the driver out of Salem, Ohio will now find a way to get to the bottom. He'll get a little bit of an arrow push here, in fact, down the back straightaway from Joe Yakes. Remember, Joe Yakes had great speed earlier in this race. Problem came when he didn't get a speeding penalty so much on the pits as he did spun himself around on the pits. Just got some wheel hop getting in, maybe just a little too hot. But nonetheless, he's looking to make a recovery here with still plenty of time. Back up front, story is still the 3 White Knuckle Racing teammates, Jay Stinson, Clinton Woodby, and Colton Hardy, as they are showing phenomenal chemistry right now and discipline here. As you see, they are just sticking 1, 2, 3. Nobody making a move. They're trying to run as quick a laps as they can, and hopefully, or at least this is the goal right now, is for them to try to break the draft from David Traylor, who sits in 4th and is, of course, not one of the teammates. And so now that Traylor, though, on the other hand, who has got himself up to 4th, now that he's got some track position, if he can maintain it long enough here until we get to the longer portions of this run, it'll be interesting to see if he maybe starts to prevail. Going to the inside here, Eric Hegdahl, the truck who had led the most laps here tonight during that first stage. to see what he can do now as he's stuck behind David Traylor, and there may be nowhere to go right here as Traylor's doing a pretty good job defending. I don't think he wants to give up the lane he feels fastest in, but it's kind of hard to tell which one that is right now because we've seen him kind of work in a couple different grooves. It's Mark Beverly. He's going to work the top groove there off of turn number 2. He gets a spot, but not going to be able to get clear. So Joe Yates will stick tight to the bumper there of Hegdahl to make sure that that 13 cannot think about sliding in through 3 and 4, and he won't be able to. Beverly still on the outside, meanwhile up front, Brody Benty on the outside looking for the lead here for the first time tonight. Look at this, the 63 of Brody Benty flexing some muscle here as he takes the lead and takes it with authority, able to pull away to almost 0.3 of a second lead. Now, I might have some stipulation, if you will, as to what this might be a result of. Not sure if we'll be able to see it here, but let's watch the dashboard here. What's the cockpit view here for Jay Stinson versus Brody Benty? Now, of course, everybody's saving tire, whether there was fuel involved or not, but also, we talked about being pretty close. You wonder here, is Jay Stinson maybe just worried about saving a little bit of fuel? You hear him really roll out of the throttle there, and you compare that to Brody Benty, who's probably getting the throttle quite a bit sooner. And so I'm not sure if Brody's just on a different pitch strategy and pushing harder than everybody else, or that's just the speed he's got right now, but he is flying. As he's got that gap up to, again, almost half a second. And there we go. Caution is out. That's going to change some things up now, as Evan Schilling with some trouble, as he is currently being scored as the last truck on the lead lap. And it looks like he went through the artificial turf. I don't see any obvious damage on that truck just yet. Looks like overall he's pretty clean, so I don't know if he actually hit anything here, but he did end up sideways, and that is why we are under caution for just the second time here tonight. Okay, here we go. Well, actually, this starts with the 8 and the 18 here as they get into the corner. Watch Evan Schilling here. He's going to look to the inside. Nicholas Lawrence looks for a block, and just two guys going for the same piece of real estate. They make contact, and Evan Schilling does go around. It looked like they're at... Oh, let's back this up one more time, I guess, before I say that. But looked like Nicholas Lawrence may have went back into the outside wall. And if he did here, that's going to be pretty heavy damage for that 8 truck. You see he gets pushed. Yeah, he did go back up to the outside wall, rear end into the safer barrier, and it certainly shortened up that truck bed a little bit. Again, we'll have to see how bad, if at all, that affects him. There's Evan Schilling coming to a stop. Take one more view of this here from the tower. And this is what they saw here off of turn number 4. Tough break for Lawrence, who was indeed kind of the innocent bystander in that case. Also a tough break for Evan Schilling, who again had been having a solid night, but just made a little bit of a judgment mistake right there. He'll learn from it nonetheless, and as we go back live, you see he's on the pits getting some repairs. Remember, everybody does have a fast spare, but if you don't have to use it, the iRacing kind of, the main idea, the meta, whatever you want to call it now, is if you don't need your fast spare, you're not using it. Repair the damage optionally, and you will be amazed at how easy it is to still stay with all the leaders, even with quite a bit of damage, of course, if you set everything up right and run the correct line. Mark Beverly, who sits in second, half a second, is going to be the distance between him and Brody Benty here for the restart. Actually, I guess it'll be less than that, more like 0.2 of a second. But, I mean, it's just, I don't even know who to pick as a winner right now. I really don't. I mean, I've seen a couple names that have come to mind so far here tonight. And, of course, right now it's Brody Benty. But earlier, you know, Eric Hegdahl, he had a great car right out of the gate. Jay Stinson making the strategy calls for his team, and that's working out well. A lot of good things going on here. So we again continue the chase rather for a champion. So we are in the round of 10, had the round of 16 for 3 races the last 3 weeks. Now we're in the round of 10 for 3 more weeks, including this week. And then after that, we head to the final 5 for one final race of the season, and that will be at Kansas Motor Speedway. All right, looks like trucks getting lined back up. Well, not quite. Lights are still on the pace car, so they'll get the pace around at least one more time here as we now have 70 of 145 laps complete. And so well over the halfway portion of this race. In fact, I don't know if well over is doing it justice. Point is, we'll start to close it on the end of this thing, or at least it'll feel that way probably once we get to about lap 110 or so. 35 to go, and then you'll eventually see 25 to go. But still a green flag pit stop in between there, so anything can happen. Brody Benty still looking for his first win of the season. He has come oh so close a couple different times, but no cigar yet. See if maybe tonight's his night, as the truck overall looks pretty fast, and he's willing to gamble. He likes his chances as he decided to stay out, it looks like. Actually, excuse me, not stay out, but let's see here. Look at the data for who all we had coming to the pits. It looks like... See, I see Jay Stinson. Yep, Brody Benty. Well, actually, that was the last caution on this one. Jay Stinson entered the pits. I'm not seeing Brody's name on here, so I'll tell you what. There's a chance that, yeah, he may have indeed not pit and is just trying to save an extra tire set or something before the end of the race. I can't find Brody on there. If he's on there, Brody, I apologize, but look at the data list that we've got here. I don't see your name on the list of people who made a pit stop under this caution. Nonetheless, though, back on track here. Further back, Jonathan Herbert in the 88. Kevin Reese in the chat says, let's go Herbster. Herbster has got a pretty good, or Jonathan Herbert has got a pretty good run going right now, as he is up 3 positions from where he started this race at. There's David Traylor back there as well. All right, so as we get ready to go back green this time, still plenty of laps to go, over a third of the race left to complete. And all a question of who is going to take home the big one here tonight. And while it may not be necessarily considered a crown jewel, it still feels like one. It's Charlotte. It's a playoff race. It's, you know, it's going to be one that everybody really wants to have, but it's only going to be one driver that's going to get it. It's going to be whoever's willing to put the most on the line. We'll have to see what happens here. Pace car going to make the left turn. As here we go, Brody Benty rolls into the Geico restart zone with the field in his hands. Green flag is back in the air. 72 laps complete here at Charlotte. 2 by 2. We'll see if this time they decide to stay 2 by 2 a little bit longer. Nope. Looks like everybody is still trying to be a bottom feeder. Weren't really any lanes open, though, for anybody to jump in there, but as they get onto the back, looks like now there was a couple spots that people were able to and decided to jump in at. Still 2 by 2 up front. 2 trucks just behind them. Actually 2 by 2 right now, pretty much through the entirety of the field, as everybody is going at it for track position here as we get later and later in the going. Now that pit window, from what we know, which by the way is going to make this a guaranteed one green flag stop now, that general pit window is probably somewhere between, it's a tough call here. I think you got to wait till maybe 30 to 40 to go. I think you go any sooner than that, or excuse me, any later than that, you're starting to push it, obviously. But if you go any sooner, I don't know if that's necessarily the right call either. So we'll see who takes the biggest gamble and who it pays off for here tonight. But we already heard one guy say he's ready to gamble, so we'll see what happens here. The 4 in the middle now, Jesse Calloway getting his first laps led tonight. But don't forget, he did something pretty impressive back just a couple weeks ago. It was one of the weeks you weren't here, actually. I forgot what track it was, but Jesse Calloway did get the win. I don't remember what track it was here. See if I can find it real quick as continue things on. And it's like, yep, it was indeed Las Vegas. That was one of the races that I was not here for. Soon, that's why I probably don't remember it. 2 by 2 now between Clinton Woodby and Mark Beverly. And then the 87 of Joe Yates sits back in 6th. Jay Stinson 7th. Colton Hardy in 8th. Jesse Wise, or excuse me, Bill Hales in 9th. And Jesse Wise rounds out your top 10. We're going to take another quick break with 76 laps complete. We'll be right back for more here at Charlotte. Stick with us. Welcome back to Charlotte Motor Speedway under caution for a pretty big incident that took place while we were over break. Let's go back and take a look at it here. It starts with Jesse Wise and Keith Prince. It collects a few big names. Actually, this actually starts even further up front. So we'll go back here to Keith Prince first and see what gets him out of shape initially, which seems like the point of which it kind of snowballed from. So here you go. Watch the 3. Looking for move to the inside here of Jay Stinson, and I think Stinson maybe tried to close the door. Couldn't tell if Jay was either trying to close the door or was just trying to make sure that he held the 3 down there. I think he was maybe trying to close the door. The point is, they make some slight contact as Keith Prince realizes it, tries to get out of the way. Now I think he's just tight. I think he's sliding, and you see he slides up, almost gets into Jay, but is able to hold it down. And then now, as he does start coming back down, Jesse Wise just ever so slightly bumps him there in the left rear, and that's going to send the 3 down the track, and it's on from here. Look at this. Similar to something you'd see at Daytona or Talladega with the way they pile it up. And it leaves quite a few of them with some pretty significant damage. But again, everybody does have one fast spare, so got to think that anybody involved in this wreck should be okay to keep going after getting some of that damage fixed. Or either using, or of course using that fast spare. But here's a couple other looks. The 69 as down on the apron. That turn, boom. There's a big hit into the outside wall. The 97 there of Colton Hardy, and then Michael Newman. The 88 of Herbert, and oh man, that's just, I hate to say it, but that looks to me like just guys not holding the brakes. And you know, when you do that, this is the kind of things that can happen here. Is let's watch from the cockpit view of Andrew Hansley. Watch for the caution lights. When do they flash here? Caution's out now. You see the light flash, you see the light flashing, and these guys they just don't get on the brakes hard enough. As I think they were assuming that maybe there was going to be a gap somewhere when they got to the scene, but there wasn't. And as a result, they piled in, took some pretty significant damage. There's Nicholas Lawrence, who actually did shoot the gap. Boy, he got lucky. It was not by much. And then he's going to go for a slide after. And then Evan Schilling and Andrew Hansley, you see right there. Not quite on the fortunate end of that one in terms of trying to make it through that gap. It's the 88 of Herbert and the 69 of Jesse Wise come to a stop up top. All right, back up front. Pit stops are complete. 82 laps are also complete. And that was our 3rd caution of the night. So go back green here with 83 laps complete of 145. And so still at the point where I would say, yeah, we are still at the point where we're expecting at least 1 green flag pit stop. Can't make it all the way just yet. But we start to edge closer and closer to that window. And the closer you get to that window of making it without having to pit anymore, at least under green, that's when you can start to bring some strategy into play. In this case, I don't know, maybe we see somebody try 2 tires, no tires, just fuel. I don't know if it's the right call, but the point is, the opportunity certainly becomes available. Speaking of opportunity, how about the one presented right here from Mark Beverly? 2 wins on the season, first one at Rockingham. He'd like to extend that here tonight with a playoff win. Is, you know, he's expecting himself to make it to the Championship 5, and that's a pretty good bet if I had to put money down. And so Mark Beverly on the inside and Bill Hales on the outside. Green flag back in the air. 83 laps complete at Charlotte. Good restart as the leader is going to quickly pull away. The 13 of Mark Beverly. No pressure out back as they already get to racing. Clinton Woodby look for a move to the middle, but now he's going to duck in line behind the 11 of Eric Hegdahl. And single file to the middle portions of the pack is they're all going to try to line up so that they don't lose these guys up front, at least not yet. And on the outside, rolling still is the 53 of Bill Hales, but just doesn't look like he's able to maintain enough momentum right now as the 13 is going to jump up. But I just don't think that Bill's, again, able to hold enough momentum on the outside as it stands now. Hegdahl, meanwhile, on the bottom, wrapping that blue and white line pretty tight. And he might get clear right here off at turn number 2. Looks like he will, so there you go. Eric Hegdahl back to the point after leading quite a few in stage number 1. And so with 84, once we hit 90, of course that's going to give us 55 to go. That would be when it's pretty much like a stage 1 run this is like a stage 1 run now with just a handful more laps or so. So Eric Hegdahl, I think, is going to push the tires and the tire wear probably as close as he can to what he did do in that first stage. And now, while he did lead the most laps in the first stage, remember, he didn't get the stage win. It was a strategy called by Jay Stinson to go in early that ultimately actually got him the stage win. Brody Venti in the 63 looking to the outside of the 98. Clinton would be just in front of these two, and then there's Jesse Calloway in the 4. Looking back to the field, Andrew Hansley still the only car being scored a lap down. Rick LePage back on the lead lap, but as it stands, looks like he is almost 5.5 seconds back from the leader, and he's about 2 seconds back from Michael Newman. So Newman on island by himself, as is, of course, Rick LePage, and then you've got Evan Schilling racing here with Colton Hardy, Keith Prince, David Traylor. A lot of big names that are stuck further back than they'd like to be right now after that last wreck, and the racing has certainly shown that. As Haas Beverly, he's going to take a peek of his own here. This might be the first 3 wide that we've seen here tonight. And the 22 is going to make work. Doesn't have to worry about it because the 8 of Nicholas Lawrence gave way. And so Lawrence will pick up that position. Try to get a 2-for-1 right there by getting around Traylor as well, but didn't get it in that corner or down the back. Back up front, Joe Yates battling for the lead. Is he going to take it? Yes, he will. Oh, man, that looked really close from our camera view in terms of if he'd be able to shut the door or not. But he does just that, so Eric Hegdahl falls to second. And Jesse Calloway, look at this. Still rolling well up top. And man, oh man, now he's going to drop back to the bottom here on Eric Hegdahl. Does he try a dive bomb here? Yes, he does. The 4 is going to shoot the truck all the way down to the apron. He doesn't slide up either, so he was in control of that slide job. Nicely done right there by Eric Hegdahl as, again, he moves, or excuse me, Jesse Calloway, as he moves in front of Eric Hegdahl and now moves into that second position, leaving just the 87 of Joe Yates in front of him. Remember, Yates had a good run earlier too, but got involved kind of in a self-incident where he half spun on his entry to the pits, so that cost him all his track position, but got a couple cautions, and here we are down the road where he has been able to fight to get that track position back, and at the point where he has now taken the lead back in this race. And there is the 90 lap mark, so that means now this is basically officially like if we were running stage 1 all over again, but this time there's a lot more on the line. It's a race win instead of just a stage win. And you can see that Jesse Calloway, who sits in second, Eric Hegdahl back in third. With the way it stands, and again, when that fuel window opens, for anybody who is just tuning in or doesn't remember from earlier, what we're kind of guessing, expect, if you will, however you want to put it, is that in terms of fuel mileage, they can go till, they probably need to wait to pit until, I'd say, 40 to 45 laps to go, which is 10 to 15 from now if they want. Yeah, we'll see. We'll just have to see what they decide to do about it. But 2 by 2 now, as the 11 of Hegdahl is going to lose another spot here. This time it's to Brody Benty. Joe Yates continues to lead. Jesse Calloway continues to put a lot of pressure on from second. Yates with a little internet moment right there. Further back, a little bit more racing. This is the battle for 10th. As Mark Beverly, I think he's trying a different strategy. May not be a bad call for the 13 either. So as Nicholas Lawrence, by the way, he had a couple scrapes on that truck earlier, and I'm looking at it. I don't see any of them, so I wonder if he just got him buffed out or potentially used that fast repair, and he's ready to get back at it again. There's Joe Yates, who continues to lead by about half a car length. Well, I'd say more about a truck length over the 87 of Joe Yates. I said leading, continues to try to close in on him. Point being, if you're Joe Yates right now, what do you do? I mean, if he starts putting any more pressure on, do you think about letting him go and saving some stuff for a little while, or do you try everything you can to fend off and hold your ground here with this clean air? A lot of choices here that the 87's got to make, and he can try to kind of aero wash the 4 truck if he wants, and that's going to require him to look in the mirror as they get into the turn. And actually, I want to show everybody kind of what I talk about when I say that, because you see right there that Jesse Calloway went high. He's trying to get that nose in fresh air. If you run in the wake of the truck in front of you, especially through the turns, you can't get as much clean air on the nose, and not as much grip, not as much turn. You can see right there as he runs, look at that, starts to get tight. Front end doesn't have that front downforce. Car doesn't turn, and up the racetrack Jesse Calloway went, but then gets brought right back by this strong draft that he's grabbing down the front straightaway. 95 laps now complete. Brody Bente's back in third, Eric Hegdahl fourth, and Jesse Wise still rounding out your top five. By the way, quick reminder of where Ghost Racing Network heads next. It's going to be over on Monday night to the Fast Track Sim Racing Cup Series. Looking forward to that one, as they aren't to the playoffs yet, still following the regular season schedule, but over here these guys getting ready to wind down their season. And I don't know if this was these guys' first season or not, but I wonder what they're going to do for next season, if they're going to run the same vehicle or if they're going to maybe think about changing it up. I don't know. I just think the trucks, you know, super speedways is, I think, the only track that, believe it or not, I'm not the biggest fan of trucks at. They're fun, but there's other cars that I think outdo them. Every other track, I want to be in a truck, and these guys show why, because the racing each and every week at almost every single track we go to is just absolutely incredible. You get battles like this right here, two different lanes. Joe Yates wrapping the bottom the old-fashioned way, and then up top, the new style, that's Jesse Calloway who's ripping the fence. 3 and 4 is a little bit different, but going back here, and now we've got some 2x2 action for Eric Hegdahl and Haas Beverly. Hegdahl right now maybe in scrambles, hoping that somebody can wreck, that he can get a caution of sorts, because he continues to drop to the back. So as he fades to the further to the back, I guess I should say, Haas Beverly moves up inside the top 5. Great run going for Haas, but storyline is still going to be, actually, we don't have an official storyline yet. There's like 3 different storylines. I would say it's Joe Yates, Eric Hegdahl, and Jay Stinson for all the crazy things they've done tonight, from leading to, I mean, it's just been a ton of fun to watch up to this point. We still are going to have 46 more laps left to go. 47 make it, actually. And there you see the beautiful looking purple, white, and gold 87 of Joe Yates. As looks like Megan White in the chat says, let's go number 92, Clinton Woodby. Clinton Woodby had speed earlier, but now he finds himself back in 15th. So not 100% sure if these guys had maybe utilized some sort of strategy during the yellow flag pit sequence that I'm just not sure here. It's just really interesting to me that some of the guys who had speed earlier are just dropping like a rock here, even if they don't have as fresh of tires. And so, as we officially make it 100 laps now complete here at Charlotte, Michael Newman in the 12 still sits back in the 18th spot. And he is down 8 from where he started, just hoping for a caution here before anybody gets lapped. I don't know if it's going to happen. All right, so with 101 laps complete, again, thank you all so much for tuning in so far here tonight. Still a bit of a ways to go, but slowly and surely seem to wind this race down. By the way, remember when we started, sun was setting. It was pretty much gone, but it was still slightly there. Now that the sun is completely down and the night skies have risen, we've only dropped a degree in track temp so far in just about an hour's worth of time. So it certainly seems like track temp not being affected too much by the fact that we went into darkness. And so with that being the case, don't look to see handling change too much as well. As Joe Yates now stretches that gap even more. He's got it up to just over half a second. Excuse me, Joe Yates stretches that gap on Jesse Calloway. So Brody Bente, who sits back in third, maybe he was saving a little tire this run. Jesse Wise, Haas Beverly. And while I think David Traylor may be saving some tire, or may have been, I just don't know if it's really going to benefit here in the sense of the position he's going to have to make up. He's going to have used that tire off, and I just don't know what he's going to have left here as he sits back in ninth. Now, there is still that green flag stop, don't forget, and I think the window for that opens here in about three to 8 laps or so. Anytime between lap 105 and 110 would be when that window first opens, and that doesn't mean you'll necessarily see everybody come in right then, but that's when you might start to see a couple guys, especially guys that are trying to maybe be the leader or trying to catch somebody off guard, or feels like they've had good speed but aren't going to win the race without a strategy call. So maybe they start to go in the short pit side. And then you've got the job that we saw, or excuse me, that's the shorthand pit, but then guys that decide to maybe run it a little bit longer, pit later, that's where you get a chance to be on offense the whole time instead of short pitting and having to play defense in the long run. And so David Traylor back in ninth. Continue to keep an eye on him. Just in front of him, though, well, we take an eye on the battle here between Keith Prince, Haas Beverly, and the 69 of Jesse Wise. Jesse Wise involved in that earlier incident. As were multiple other trucks in the field, but got that truck cleaned up. Seeing what he can do now, as we have hit officially 40 laps to go. He crosses the line right here. And so Joe Yakes got the win back at Atlanta. Again, similar mile and a half. Speed-wise, yes. Handling-wise, it's a night and day difference. But I know if he could get a win here tonight, again, just as we say for a lot of the playoff drivers, but there's just certain guys that you pick out. You look at when they got their last win, what it could mean if they get their win tonight. And I think Joe Yakes would be a pretty happy guy with it if it were to end that way. And now you also start to wonder if you're the 87, what are you thinking here? Do you think try to go in early, and do you go long run? Again, I think you go long run if you're in the leader, but it's all about preference. Everybody does things differently, and maybe if Jesse Calloway goes in, I don't know, next lap, who knows? Maybe Joe Yakes had also went in, but as it stands right now, the 87 machine, he is a lightning rod. He is flying at the moment. Here's the 12 of Michael Newman. Here we go, first round of the final green flag stop here of the night. Looks like leading him in is going to be Clinton Woodby, Colton Hardy, and Clinton Woodby, Colton Hardy, and did Jay Stinson pit with him this time? I don't know that he did. I don't know if Jay Stinson decided to go in this time. If he did here, he got out really quick. No, he didn't go in that time. You see, he's still on the track in the 98, running back in 12th. Let's see how these guys exit here, if there's any issues with it. As there's Rick LePage. You see a little bit of damage to the right side of his truck. Maybe some contact with either another driver or contact with the outside wall. And so he'll jack up the right sides, take some fresh tires on all four, and he should be back good to go here. See, sure enough, there he goes. So now that you've got a couple of the guys that were sitting further back pitting, that train usually starts to slowly work its way forward here. Question is, who is going to be the first one to make that move down to the pit lane? Jesse Calloway stays out that time as well. So does Haas Beverly, Keith Prince, Bill Hales, Jesse Wise, Jonathan Herbert, and Eric Hegdahl. Actually, it looks like, yep, sure enough, Eric Hegdahl is indeed making his pit stop right here. So talked about what Hegdahl kind of needed to try to do to have a chance. Once he got fresh tires, I felt like he would, but I just don't know now with, I just don't know if it's going to work out. At this point, we'll have to see. It does for Hegdahl, but 35 laps to go. As Joe Yakes is in the hunt, in the search for potentially what could be his second win of the season, first win of the postseason, and one of the biggest wins of a sim racing career. You get the job done here tonight. 111 laps complete. We're going to take another quick break, but we'll go side by side so you don't miss a thing. Stick with us. We'll be right back at Charlotte. Welcome back to Charlotte Motor Speedway. Starting to close in on the end of this one here. The Nirjuana 218, 117 of 145 laps complete. Well, while we were over break, you saw the pit stop from Joe Yakes, and pretty much just about the rest of the field has made their stop. Still a couple of guys who haven't, though. And you can see them on the scoring tower. Everybody above Joe Yakes, except potentially Brody Benty. They've all made their stops. Or excuse me, haven't made their stops, rather. Jesse Calloway is the leader right now, but again, he has not made a pit stop yet, and he will have to make one more before this race is all said and done. And does he come down this time? Looks like he will. So the Ford truck going to make his final stop of the race right here. And we'll see if he takes 4 tires and fuel, as a lot of others have chosen to do so far. Don't really think anybody tried any crazy strategy. I mean, Brody Benty maybe the first one in position that, you know, tried the shortest pit, see if it would work out, and it's working out right now. But unfortunately, this is the issue right here, is that the 87 of Joe Yakes has fresher tires, and he's going to scoot right on around. He'll take that position. Joe Yakes goes back to the point here with 119 laps complete. Haas Beverly, he will now be scored as your leader. Look at a couple of laps led right here as Keith Prince sits in second, Jonathan Herbert third, Michael Newman in fourth. And now that makes those 4 drivers the only 4 who have not come into pit just yet. Haas Beverly, hometown Ohio. Him and Mark Beverly, of course, all they do by putting on this league and everything they do to help grow it, make it what it is each and every week. And I know these guys have a blast with it. They kind of go hand in hand with the NOMA Truck Series, which, by the way, they'll be back tomorrow night as well on Ghost Racing Network. So make sure you check that one out. We'll go live for that at 10 o'clock Eastern. That's certainly going to be a fun one, and I'm looking forward to the next 2 races that we have after this. I mean, I said that Talladega's a wild card. They're both wild cards. Bristol is going to be wild in of itself, but then, as I said, Talladega, we know how that can end. I mean, you can go from hero to zero, vice versa there, the way things pan out. Keith Prince, now the only truck still out on track that has not made his final pit stop. As you see, Bill Hale's getting ready to go around in a 53. That does get his lap back. Man, that was a close one between those two. But, I mean, I'm thinking about Bristol again. And, you know, we went to Martinsville earlier in the season. And based on how that went, I don't know what to quite expect for Bristol. Hopefully something a little bit cleaner. But overall, I think the racing at Bristol is phenomenal. One of the best tracks. Especially, I think it's the best short track. But one of the best tracks in general. A lot of guys like it. A lot of guys hate it. Going to be a fun one. Joe Yakes in second. But again, once things cycle out, should cycle to your leader. Brody Benty would be second. And then David Traylor and Eric Hegdahl are the 2 who are battling for third. Mark Beverly right now in 6th. But he'd be battling for that 5th. Or he'd be sitting in that 5th spot once Prince makes his stop. And it'll be 22 laps to go once Keith Prince crosses the stripe this time. And you know, I wonder at this point, I don't see any way that Keith Prince would be good to go on fuel. So I wonder if at this point Keith is just staying out, maybe hoping that he can get a caution and then be able to play a little bit of strategy game to maybe steal one here tonight. But I just don't know if he's going to get it. Overall, it's been a pretty clean race. We've had a couple of cautions for incidents, but I mean, for 145 laps, we certainly have not had that many. And with just 22 to go, it seems like, oh, well, that was certainly almost one right there. Is the 4 of Jesse Calloway had a great big run in the middle of 3 and 4 and almost couldn't decide where to take it in time. But he was able to get it sorted out. Joe Yakes about 20 seconds behind Keith Prince, and at the pace it's going, even if Prince did stay out all the way, he'd get past. So it's just Keith Prince playing a strategy, hoping for a caution. Don't think he's, like we said, going to get one, but you never know. Sometimes that's the risk you got to take, and I know we talked briefly about what the point scenario was looking like coming into tonight. And for Keith Prince, you know, he sits 5th in points, so kind of halfway, not necessarily the safest of all drivers, but not necessarily in danger either. So he's got room to, you know, take that gamble this week. Hope it works out. If not, maybe he tries something the next week. But you can see here that it's kind of him waving the white flag and realizing it did not work, as no caution comes out. And he needs to go in for fuel, so he'll go in, take 4 tires, fill it up with gas, And as he goes back out on track, it'll be probably 19 laps to go. By the way, though, even, you know, with all the green flag racing we've had here tonight, impressively enough, only one car currently that is not being scored on the lead lap, and that is Michael Newman. Rick LePage in 17th on up, all being scored on the lead lap. And then, of course, Andrew Hansley, who was out of this race due to an issue. We saw some trouble for him earlier in some of the wrecks that he got involved in. But Joe Yakes, he may not have been the most dominant truck all night, but here at the end, he has certainly found something that it seems like nobody else has been able to find yet. And that gap will continue to extend on Brody Benty, and the gap between him and Trailer is 4 seconds. So, I mean, you do the math. If he's able to lose, I mean, they'd have to start catching probably at least 2/10 a lap. And even that may not be enough here with just 20 to go. Might be about, yeah, so I just think that, I think Yakes is in this. I think he's in the position he's been trying to put himself in all season. Again, he got that win at Atlanta, but that was a really hard-fought one that kind of came all the way down to the wire. Not this one. Not the way it's looking right now. So far, he has pulled away, and at this point, it's just him making sure he doesn't make a mistake himself. And then, of course, hoping that that bright yellow flag does not get waved at any point here within the next 17 laps. That being until we take the white flag to make this race official. Nicholas Lawrence on the outside here of Jonathan Herbert, who's looking to make a pass. Herbert will complete that pass as he jumps up in front of Lawrence down the back straightaway. Will the 3 of Keith Prince try to make a move? Yes, he will. He's got those fresher tires, and he's taking full advantage of them. Go to the onboard view here for Keith Prince and show you again the lap time difference. Ooh, Prince, little kiss to the outside wall there as he tried to get out of the throttle, but just ran out of real estate. So 30.2 seconds was that last lap. Of course, that lap he hit the wall, so we're not going to count it. Compare that to Joe Yakes, 31.5. Again, showing you the fall off, almost a second and a half. And that is not even at the end of the run for Joe Yakes, and not at the freshest tires either for Keith Prince. So there's probably, all in all, 2 seconds worth fall off here tonight that we were seeing at some point. But all the strategy play that we saw in stage 1 out the door, as drivers that were fast in stage 1. Biggest one I'm looking towards is Jay Stinson, involved in that trouble, and since then it's just not really been able to recover after getting that stage 1 victory, of course. So it's just 14 laps to go now, 15 actually. He's just looking to see if he can maybe keep himself in the top 10, maybe go fight for a top 5. Brody Benty, though, if he could cap this off with the podium finish, I think he'd still be happy. Even though he, of course, did not make it to the round of 10 for the playoffs. One of those drivers that we talked about still out every week, trying to get any momentum they can to build up for next season. And if he could, he came close to potentially getting a win here a couple times. If he could potentially get a podium here tonight, that would be pretty sweet in and of itself. Eric Hegdahl, good recovery for him as he is now back up to the 3rd position. Trailer falls to 4th. Jesse Calloway rounds out your top 5. 3 seconds, though, is now the gap between Joe Yakes and Brody Benty, and almost 5 seconds between Eric Hegdahl and Joe Yakes. So it's 13 laps to go now. And, you know, all night we saw quite a few lead changes. Saw Joe Yakes battling early. Saw him with some speed early, but maybe not race winning speed. Stage 1 doesn't quite end the way he would have liked it to necessarily. Would have liked to, of course, got the stage win, and then here we are. Or excuse me, got a penalty in stage 1. Not a penalty, but half spun on the pits, which is what led to, of course, that stage not ending maybe the way he wanted it to. But here we are, late in the race. This is where you got to put it all on the line. We talked about this being one of the longer races of the season, kind of an endurance race, and you had to make sure that you were on points at the end when it mattered most. And boy, this 87, he found a rhythm, executed this pit stop, made a mistake on the early one. That's the important thing. When you've got any sort of a race that has stages in it, it's okay to make a mistake in that first stage. While it may cost you stage points, it's not race ending. What you can't do, though, is make a mistake during that final stage, especially when you have, in this case, only one green flag pit stop that ended up actually happening. Joe Yakes made sure that he did not make that mistake. And he is getting ready to see what will be 10 laps to go. he continues to close in on what would be his second victory of the season, first win of the playoffs, and potentially a ticket to the Championship 5. Certainly going to boost his points even more as he came into this race in 4th. And I'm not sure if it'll quite give him the points lead as David Traylor runs in 5th, but certainly would boost him probably at least a spot or 2 in the standings. And so you wonder how everybody else is going to bounce back next week. Some of the playoff guys that needed a good run tonight that maybe didn't quite get the run they were wanting. I mean, I look right now to Colton Hardy, who sits in 14th. Came in as the last spot on the bubble, sits 10th right now. And, you know, I'm looking at it here. He's going to have to get some consistent finishes at Bristol and Talladega. You know, right now sitting in 14th, but that doesn't tell the whole story of the day. He got involved in a couple accidents, not his doing. And then 97, though, had a good initial stage 1 finish, but since then, just been no dice. Go up a couple spots. Jesse Callaway looks like it'll be a pretty good run to the finish for him potentially, as he sits in 4th with that late pitch strategy, or later pitch strategy. Michael Newman, he's going to fall in points after a rough night tonight. Looks like he may end this thing a lap down, and then Clinton Woodby might be in an okay spot, but he is falling back to 14th now as Hardy is taking that position from his teammate. So we'll go back to the field here one more time before we keep it up front the rest of the way. There's Michael Newman kind of on an island by himself. Andrew Hansley, by the way, out of the race. Rick LePage in 17th. There's Nicholas Lawrence in 16th. Jonathan Herbert in 15th. Clinton Woodby 14th. Colton Hardy in 13th. Jesse Wise 12th. Keith Prince in 11th. Haas Beverly in 10th. Evan Schilling in 9th. Jay Stints at 8th. Bill Hales in 7th. Mark Beverly in 6th with David Traylor in 5th. Eric Hegdahl 4th. And guess who? Jesse Callaway has now made his way up to 4th, almost 3rd, but wow, that was a big moment. He had to get out of the throttle big time. He's got much fresher tires than these guys, and he's trying to take advantage while they are still fresher, but that was a little bit of an aggressive move there by Benty, I think, or not necessarily aggressive, but a move Callaway maybe wasn't expecting, and now that gets him caught behind both of these two, and with just 5.5 laps to go here, he's going to have to find a way to get around these two before the tires start to even out, and may not be able to get around. Now everybody here second on back is well over 5 seconds behind your leader, so don't have to worry about anybody catching up to the 87 unless we of course get a caution. But oh, easy Callaway, he's going for it right here. We're going to keep it here a bit longer because the 4 is getting really antsy here. Again, he knows he's got a faster truck right now with those newer tires, but he just cannot find a way by. Benty and Hegdahl continue to stay side by side, and he's been looking around a couple different areas. This time he's going to look to the third group, gets in the throttle early, tries to get the nose to the quarter panel, and he's going to do so. On the outside, Jesse Callaway, 3 wide move. Look at this, 3 wide down the backstretch, the battle for second. And just like that, Jesse Callaway will get clear, and he will set the sail. He is going to take off and look to, again, hopefully hold on to that second place finish here with just 3.5 laps to go or so for your leader, Joe Yakes. Joe Yakes right now going to be trying to run the fastest laps he has ran all race because he wants to see that white flag, and until he sees it, he is not going to feel safe. Well, boy, we had some lead changes here tonight. It seemed like at almost you could have broke the race into a bunch of different slices, and each slice had a different driver that was leading and was dominant. But man, this last, ever since I'd say probably 20 to 30 laps, actually ever since we went back green to that last caution, talked about it, Yakes, he found something, man, and he has been on a rail since. It has been a clinic here for the second half of final stage rather, and close it in on what is going to be the final lap for cautions here if we're going to get them. So Joe Yakes wants to see not the flag man this lap, but he wants to see him next lap when he is holding the white flag, declaring this race official. Going back, Stinson looking to see if he can maybe hold off Keith Prince here. Not going to be able to do it as Prince will look to set up Bill Hales. The rest of the field getting sorted out and potentially getting set up for what should be this final lap. Bernie Benty continues to fade here as looks like Hegdahl and Callaway might be setting up themselves in a battle for second. But here we go. Joe Yakes out of turn number 4. And he is going to see the white flag. 1 lap to go for Joe Yakes at Charlotte. 2 more sets of corners. Puts it on cruise control now. 5-second lead. Actually over 6. One of the biggest gaps that we have seen all season in a green flag run to the finish. Joe Yakes took control. And with this win, it's going to help him take control of his chances to make it to the championship 5. Comes out of turn number 4 feeling good. This time, it's not going to come down to will a lapper decide it or will it be a photo finish. It's a dominant performance. Joe Yakes wins it at Charlotte. Captures his 2nd win of the season. As we go back real quick to the battle for 2nd. Oh my goodness. Close one that was. It looks like it goes to Jesse Calloway. But Joe Yakes is your winner here tonight. Again, 2nd win of the season, 1st of the playoffs. Nicely done by the 87 machine. So he'll bring it around. Celebrate. As he does so, we'll get a chance to look at your finishing results here on the night. Joe Yakes again brings home the win. Jesse Calloway 2nd. Eric Hegdahl 3rd. Brody Benty back in 4th. David Traylor in 5th. Bill Hales back in 6th. Keith Prince in 7th. Jay Stinson 8th with Haas Beverly in 9th. And Evan Schilling rounding out your top 10. Mark Beverly finishes 11th. Jesse Wise in 12th. Jonathan Herbert in 13th. Colton Hardy 14th. Clinton Woodby in 15th. Nicholas Lawrence in 16th with Rick LePage in 17th. Michael Newman in 18th. And rounding out the field here tonight is Andrew Hansley. He finishes in 19th. All right, as Joe Yakes continues to celebrate his victory here at Charlotte, we are going to go see if we can get your top 3 in here for interviews. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, as Joe Yakes continues the celebrations here at Charlotte, we're going to start tonight with your 3rd place finisher, Eric Hegdahl from O-Power. Eric, this is Austin the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, man, I got you.
Well, you bring home a podium finish. You had speed early, looked like maybe the best truck for a while, but things don't quite go the way you want it there in the 3rd stage. Is there anything that you wish maybe would have went a little different there?
Yeah. I would like for it to stay green for the entire race, really. Tell you, I put a lot of practice into this week. I don't typically have a lot of time to practice, so thankfully I had time this week to practice, and man, that's it's kind of heartbreaking to lose it because this league is a lot of good guys, a lot of good drivers. It's hard to hard to win these races, and man, this one got away. Took tires on that one pit stop when I shouldn't. They would have worked out had to stay green, but another yellow came out like 5 laps after, and I just couldn't afford to take that 3rd set. And Joe, he had the best strategy tonight. Had a great battle with Callaway there at the end. I won a 2nd place at least, but at least we got a podium.
Absolutely, and actually looking at it here, yep, sure enough. So sorry, I was double checking the results here for a moment, and I know I said 3rd stage. Of course, I was talking about the final stage now. Overall, I know you're a little disappointed with the way things ended there. Felt like you should have won this one, but, nonetheless, bringing home a podium, and as you said, good battle there at the end. It's, of course, going to help the point scenario. You came in tonight 2nd. Going to leave tonight probably in pretty good shape. So, we look forward next 2 weeks, wild cards, Bristol and Talladega. How do you kind of focus forward to those 2 races, and what's going to be the game plan?
Survive, honestly. I'm not really worried about Talladega. I'm more worried about Bristol because I am not good at Bristol. There's probably a good chance I'm gonna probably go a lap down next week. So try to survive, get as much points as possible, and then Talladega, see what happens. But really wanted that win tonight. That way I don't have to worry about Bristol. But see what happens.
Absolutely. Well, before we let you head out here tonight, is there anyone you'd like to thank or shout out?
Yeah, shout out to you for putting on a great broadcast every week. Can't wait to go back and watch this one. And the Beverleys for putting on the league, Sonic Graphic Design, Winning Bid, Diecast Auctions, all the competitors on track. And looking forward to next week.
All right, and thank you, as always, for talking to us here tonight. Congrats again on the third place finish, and we'll see you next week.
Sounds good, man. Thank you.
All right, and now that'll bring us to your second place finisher, the winner of that duel at the end between Hegdahl and Callaway, Jesse Callaway. Jesse, this is Austin up in the booth. Got a copy?
Yeah, hey, Austin.
Well, you bring home second. The tire strategy worked out to get up to second, but of course, just too big of a gap to try to get to the lead. But, you know, you came into the race here tonight maybe a little bit lower on the points chart than maybe you were expecting, but with a great performance here tonight, you're going to move up in the standings. So how did you kind of decide on that strategy to pit later? I mean, it worked out well. Was that kind of the game plan coming into the race, or did you have to improvise?
Yeah, was sort of improvised. Yeah, I know Joe's so good at saving tires, and I'm always a step behind when it comes to that. So I kind of wanted to do something different than what he was doing, and I was kind of determined to stay out and hope that I would have enough to catch back up to him, and it just didn't quite happen. I mean, we had a super fast truck, though. I'm happy with it going into this round. I mean, I'm glad to even be this far. So hopefully it moves me up enough where we can get a good cushion going into Bristol.
Absolutely, and you got the best of Eric Hegdahl at the end. And I got to ask, because, you know, we saw towards the end there, it looked like you were initially getting ready to get by Brody Benty. You get held up. They go too wide. You're trying to find a way around. You know, what was kind of going through your head through that battle? And then what did you think when you saw the 11 all of a sudden start to catch back up after the fact?
I was really good on the outside, or at least it felt like I had a lot of speed on the outside and a good run down the backstretch like all night. And I was just telling myself a lap before, you know, if it came down to that, that's what I was going to do, put it up against the wall and try to make it happen. And thankfully it worked. And I saw him coming at the end, and I was just doing all I could to hold on to the spot, because every point definitely matters right now.
Certainly does. Well, before we let you head out here tonight to go celebrate that second place finish, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, thanks everybody watching. Thank you for everything you do for the league. Thanks to my teammate, Joe Yakes. Congratulations to him, the whole team, Loose Lug Nuts. The sponsors tonight, Vulcan Materials, U.S. Concrete, Caterpillar, Liquid Death, Cal Sport Racing, and any family and friends out there watching. I appreciate everybody.
Thank you, of course, for talking to us. Again, congrats on the second place finish, and we'll see you at Bristol.
All right, man. Sounds good.
All right, now that'll bring us to tonight's race winner. Second win of the season, first win in the playoffs. Joe Yakes. Joe, this is Austin in the booth. Got a copy?
I sure do. How's it going?
Good. Well, man, you know, the last win, we saw maybe just a slight bit of controversy, but more importantly, it was the fact that it was a stressful one. Came all the way down to a photo finish. Not the case tonight. Over 6 seconds, the gap between you and second. I mean, you were on rails there in probably the second half of the third stage ever since we had that last caution. What was the difference?
Really, the difference was just getting off sequence with some of those guys. You know, we had a caution come out, you know, just after the stage, I think like 8 laps in or something, and I grabbed fuel there just to make it to the end, and a couple of guys got tires, and then we had that other caution just right there, and it just kind of flip-flopped, and I'm like, I can just get the clean air, look after that right front tire, I'm going to have a huge tire advantage until that pit stop, and it just kind of worked out.
It certainly did, and you know, the big thing about getting a win is now you don't really have to stress about Bristol and Talladega, so with that in mind, do you go out there and maybe try to help a teammate, more so at Talladega I'm referring to, or do you just kind of go out there and see if you can't maybe get another win and build some more momentum?
Well, I'm going to try to help out my teammate if I can. I got Jesse Callaway there in this round of playoffs as well. I'm going to do my best to help him, but, you know, at the end of the day, you know, we're still out here racing. So, you know, I'm going to do the best I can, but help my teammate along the way.
All right. Well, before we let you head out here tonight to go celebrate a great win and a dominant one, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, first off, I want to thank my teammates tonight, Jesse Callaway, Jesse Wise, Nicholas Lawrence. It was a lot of fun racing with those guys, especially Jesse. It looked like it was going to come down to either one of us here tonight. And you know, shout out to Eric as well. I mean, the guy was the fastest tonight by far, and to kind of get the strategy advantage on him, I felt like I got that one back after losing that one at Richmond. It's been a rough season, and it just kind of feels so good to finally, you know, not only just put this in victory lane, but, you know, guarantee that, hey, I'm going back to the championship race. And I also want to thank my friend Adam. He's hanging me out. He's helping me with strategy and stuff. He's taught me everything I know about sim racing, and I wouldn't be here without him. And, you know, big shout out to him. And of course, Mark and the other admins that put this league on. It's so much fun to come out here and race every Friday night. And looking forward to closing out another fantastic season.
Absolutely, and thank you for talking to us. Again, congrats on the win, second of the season, first of the playoffs. We will see you next week at Bristol.
Sounds good. We'll see you then.
All right, that'll wrap up our coverage here tonight from Charlotte Motor Speedway. What a race it was, and what a win it was for Joe Yakes. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Again, apologize for being a bit late here tonight. Hopefully we'll have things settled out next week. Nonetheless, though, I hope you all did enjoy. That'll do it for me, Austin Green, here on Ghost Racing Network. Till next time, have a good night.